Hey guys, welcome to the Son of Wonder and holy flipping mess. Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 2 was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Let's conversationalize. What up, guys? When I watched this episode, I did not expect to see arguably the third best episode in the series. But I did. Every single movement these characters make in this episode, every single twitch of the eye, well, not twitch, but I guess movement of the eye, means something. It is nuts, the stuff that they do in this episode with the characters and with the action sequences. So let's just get right into it. The main conflict of this episode is there is a formerly separatist planet called Desix that is run by this governor who was a separatist. Her name is Tawny Ames, I believe. And an imperial governor comes to subjugate her world, and she takes him hostage. Come to find out, this episode is actually not a Bad Batch episode at all. It's a Crosshair episode, which I guess in a way still is kind of a Bad Batch episode because it used to be part of the Bad Batch. But I want more episodes like this. It's funny with this series because I love this series, I really do. But something you can tell with the first season is that it did have a lot of solely filler episodes, like episodes that didn't really mean that much in the larger context. They had a bit to them, but not a ton. But one thing that you gotta remember about Dave Filoni, take Star Wars Rebels for instance. By the time you get to the end of that series, I don't think there is a single truly filler episode. Because even the episodes in season 1 that seem to just be more like one-offs, like, hey, this is a little fun story for the kids until we get to the real stuff, means something for an important plot point later on. Like when the rebels need something, or when they're about to get rescued. Oh, that thing that was in one of the earlier episodes that we thought was for nothing comes in later. I have a feeling that's going to be the case for the episodes in the first season that were or did seem filler. But they weren't obviously as good as the main, like, meaningful, juicy episodes, which I felt the best ones were the first episode and the second to last episode of the first season. This episode 2, almost said 3, is on those previous episodes level. It has the depth, it has the weight, it has the intention, the level of skill in the writing does not go unnoticed on my part. It is just remarkable when you really think about it. Because this episode intertwines with Clone Wars. And a lot of people may not realize that unless they do a little bit more research and like, oh, that name kind of sounds familiar. That's what that is, and that's what I love to see. And yes, it's not just about Easter eggs and fan service and all this stuff, but at the same time, Star Wars is a connected universe, so you want to take advantage of those connections, and if you can make something cool, like write a cool connection that makes sense with the story, do it. And that's exactly what this episode does, and I'll get to that. But Crosshair is with the Empire again, and it's revealed that he ended up staying on the Kaminoan platform, being stranded there, as we saw him in the finale of the last season, for 32 days. And the dude still remained loyal to the Empire when they found him. Or when somebody found him. They don't even say that the Empire found him. He's that demented, or he's that blindly loyal, that he still served them despite they left him for dead for a month. And boy, does that blind loyalty come into effect later. I mean, it's always come into effect. We've always seen that with Crosshair throughout his character in this series. But the littlest things in this episode mean a ton. For instance, first scene we see him, he's waking up, he's going to the cafeteria to get some food. You ever hear these clones talking about the defense recruitment bill that they don't want to be passed because it'll be bad for them somehow? I don't even know what that entails. I believe that would mean the defense recruitment bill that the Empire would be passing, I guess, would mean recruiting more of the random people from the galaxy to become a part of their soldiers and eventually become stormtroopers. The clones say that would be bad for them, and of course it would be, because that means that the clones will be phased out of the Empire and become useless to them, and then they just get normal people from that throughout the galaxy, which was explored in the first season. So even little things like that, they intrigue you, like, oh, what was that they were talking about? But then they don't go too much into it, because that's not what this episode is about. Crosshair sits on the table that these clones are at, and they just get up and leave. They give them these kind of dirty looks, and then they leave. And it shows, like, even Crosshair, who is a clone, who can now be considered in the same boat with the rest of these clones, because they're all kind of being phased out of the Empire. They're all being given dirty looks because they're obsolete now. Like, they were part of an old war that doesn't exist anymore, that it was won by the Empire. But even in a world where Crosshair can relate to the other clones, he's still considered an outcast because he is one of the Bad Batch members. He is not like the other clones. He's way more intense than the other clones by far, and I think that's another reason that the other clones don't really like him that much. But you see those kind of things too, and it also entails something like, so even they're kind of outcasting him. Even his own clone brethren are not considering him a true brother. Crosshair's called to Admiral Rampart, and Rampart gives him this mission to go take down this rogue separatist governor who's trying to keep her planet, basically. And Crosshair is under the command of Commander Cody. And I cannot tell you guys how important this is to me, because one of my most looming questions, ever since I saw The Revenge of the Sith when I was a little kid, what happened to Cody after Revenge of the Sith? Because Cody was such a main character in the Clone Wars, but after all these years, they have never said in canon, at least, there was some stuff in Legends, but they've never said in canon what happened to Cody after Revenge of the Sith. It was always something that, ate on me, because I was like, Cody was such good friends with Obi-Wan. And just to portray him like that, just say, blast him, kill him, Palpatine gave me orders, kill him. I always was like, really? Like, one, you portray on your friend that quickly, but two, like, what happens to your brain after that? And I think the arc that they give Cody in this episode is so good and so befitting of his character, especially for what you see of his character in Clone Wars. He is a soldier. He follows orders. He even tells Crosshair, good soldiers follow orders, just like Tuff did in Season 6 of Clone Wars before he killed a Jedi. But you can see the hesitation in his eyes. This is a flipping cartoon, and you can see the hesitation in Cody's eyes, just with one look this way. You can see it. He's like, I'm not fully committed to this Empire. Like, most of me believes that we're doing good, bringing peace to the galaxy, but a deep down part of me is kind of against it. The deep down part of me that was, inspired by Rex, inspired by Obi-Wan, inspired by Anakin, is kind of telling me, no, I don't think the Empire is doing very good. And there's this wall that him and Crosshair talk beside twice in the episode. And it has like all this Arabesh letters on it, and I would assume they're the names, but I don't know who they're the names of. I mean, I don't even know for sure if they're names, but Cody keeps looking at it. So I'm like, well, it's gotta have some kind of significance. But Cody, everything about his character, it's like, yeah, I'm following orders, I followed Order 66, so I don't have as strong of a will as Rex does, but I still have a strong enough of a will to know that something isn't right. But he doesn't blatantly tell Crosshair that until the end of the episode, because of the traumatic event that takes place. Bottom line, they go to Desix, and the tactics that the writers through their story, and I guess I don't know who actually was designed the action sequences. I don't know what they would be called, but whoever they are, A+. This is one of the best action sequences. Like from the time they they crash land on the planet, because the governor attacks them. They crash land on the planet, and then they get to the governor. It is just insane. All the different things they do, and all the moves that Crosshair does that just blow my mind. Blow my ever-loving mind. Shoots a sniper blast right down the barrel of a separatist tank. Never once did we see that in Clone Wars. These are the kind of things that I imagine sometimes when I'm like fan imagining in my head about Star Wars fights, or just fights in general. Somebody shooting down the barrel of a tank. Like, would that work in Star Wars? Heck yeah, it would work. And it was awesome. And we've never seen that before. And then we get this action sequence when Crosshair and Cody are in the city. And it's cool because it's sort of like Battle Royale. It's like we're stuck in this hostile neighborhood and we have to fend for our lives against the hostile forces. And it has such a cool vibe to it, especially considering it's Cody, who's one of the best warriors in the entire Clone Army, and then Crosshair, who's the best shot in the entire Clone Army. What could possibly go wrong for them? But you have both of them like thinking outside the box and doing all these crazy stunts. But you have both of them going up against these droid decas or destroyer droids in the city. And it's funny because we've seen so many action sequences in Star Wars at this point with these specific droids. They're the droids that roll around and have the shields and have the machine guns, and they're like the hardest droids to beat in the Clone Wars. All the clones hate them, all the Jedi hate them. Never have we seen them be fought the way that the clones fight them in this episode. This doesn't even take place in the Clone Wars. These are reprogrammed battle droids. They're not even really that separatist anymore. But the strategies they use. The main thing that impressed me about the action sequence was how dynamic they made it. Even more dynamic than they made it in Clone Wars. Because it wasn't really terribly dynamic in Clone Wars. There was a few moments where they got a little tricky with it. But for the most part, it was like you either run away from the droids because they're so powerful, or you throw a droid popper, like kind of slowly in the shield so it can blow up and take out the droid from there. And yes, they do that in this episode, but it's so much cooler because there's one moment where one clone throws a grenade on one battle droid and Crosshair shoots it, and the battle droid slowly falls into the shield of the destroyer droid and then blows it up. And there's another moment where, as the droid is rolling, one of the clones throws the bomb at the droid as it's rolling. And I'm thinking, why didn't they do that more in the Clone Wars? That would have been great. Sometimes the Jedi took advantage of that and attacked the droids while they were rolling, but the clones really didn't do that. So it's just all these newer things that we haven't seen the clones do that make logical sense, that are good tactical advantages to take advantage of. And we never saw that in the Clone Wars, and it's just so cool to see it here. One of the best action sequences that Dave Filoni in his animation career, I feel. But anyway, they're climbing up the staircase. They're losing more clones as you go, and you really feel the tension. And Crosshair and Cody are stuck in a staircase. Cody uses a vibroblade that comes out of nowhere. I didn't even know he knew how to use one of those. I guess he took inspiration from the Bad Batch, but he takes out a bunch of commando droids with a vibroblade, like a boss. And then Crosshair just goes, "Throw one of my reflection discs." And Cody's like, okay. And he throws it, and Crosshair shoots the disc in the air, and it bounces off a bunch of the commander droids and hits the tactical droid, which is like the master droid of everything, of all the stuff the battle droids are doing. Boss. And then we get this really intimate moment between the governor, Tawny Ames. Again, I believe that's her name. I might be butchering it. She has the Imperial governor that came to subjugate her world at Blaster Point. And she's talking with Cody how there's no time for peace. Peace was never an option. And she says she tried to negotiate peace with the Republic during the Clone Wars, because she was a separatist, with a woman named Mina Bonteri. And when they offered negotiations, Chancellor Palpatine rejected them. And as soon as she said that, I was like, oh my gosh, she was a friend of Lux Bonteri's mother. And if you don't know, these are characters in the Clone Wars, pretty important characters, they become important. Mina Bonteri appears in only one episode, in the episode called Heroes on Both Sides. And in the episode, Padme and Ahsoka secretly go to a separatist world to negotiate with Mina Bonteri of how to end the Clone Wars peacefully, basically. Of how to get the separatists to negotiate with the Republic. And it almost works. Those episodes are written very well, as so many in the Clone Wars are. But it almost works. But Dooku is the one who's like, no, it's not going to work because this is not part of my master's plan. But already some corrupt Republic senators were trying to get rid of the peace negotiations. They're trying to keep the war going because it was profit for them. But the bottom line is that the writing is so good because there's so many layers. Because when you really think about it, this woman, this governor, Tawny Ames, is still in this belief in her cause. She even says it earlier in the episode that Dooku is right about everything. The Republic really is corrupt. But what she never knew, what none of the separatists ever knew, that was he was the corruption. He was part of it. He was one of the Sith Lords. He was one of the guys puppeting everything. He was the puppeteer of the puppeteer. He was puppeting things as Palpatine was puppeting him. And again, all of these layers with this random governor that they just happened to write for this episode. And it's so cool to see. But making this woman a friend of Mina Bonteri's creates even more dramatic weight for what happens in Heroes on Both Sides and the second part of that episode, which was Pursuit of Peace. I won't spoil those episodes for you, but they're really good. You should go check them out. They're more on the political side of things, but I appreciate that about the Clone Wars because in Star Wars, Dave and George were able, and Clone Wars specifically, they were able to create such a deep, layered political dynamic that no one actually would ever think would be interesting, but I found it incredibly interesting, actually. To go to the levels that they did, creating sentences that I don't even understand, in a fictional space opera cartoon, making it seem as realistic as possible, almost as if, this is a real galaxy that is out there somewhere, or was out there somewhere long ago in a galaxy far, far away, that had real political dynamics. That's nuts. But you have this woman who feels the ramifications of that. In a Clone Wars episode that's like years old at this point. It is insane what these guys are able to do. These Dave Filoni colleagues and Dave Filoni himself. I'm just like, wow. But she has this really tense moment with Cody, where Cody truly believes that the Empire is bringing peace and order to the galaxy. And she's like, when I tried to negotiate with the Republic, they rejected us. But it wasn't actually the Republic, it was just Palpatine pulling all the strings, because there was an attack that stopped the peace negotiations, because everything was planned. But nobody knows that. Not even Cody truly, fully knows that. But he is willing to choose peace. He puts down his helmet and his blaster and is like, we can make it peaceful this time. And he really means it. He's genuine. And I love that they wrote that. He's not a jerk. He's not just bad now because he went Order 66. He still has conflict inside of him. Major conflict. Because he's truly a good person, because all the clones are individuals, which they established so well in Clone Wars. And sure enough, once she does agree to release the hostage, as Cody negotiates peacefully, the hostage Imperial governor orders Cody to execute the separatist governor girl, Tawny Ames. And Cody doesn't want to do it, obviously. He's like, wait, but I just promised her a peaceful negotiation. He's in the conflict because Imperial governor's pushing down hard on him to do it. And then you hear a blaster shot, Crosshair shoots her. I was actually fully expecting that. I knew Crosshair was going to shoot her. Because I'm like, he's just messed up enough, and he's just loyal enough to the Empire, whatever that means for him. I don't even know if this is real loyalty or if he just likes to kill. But at this point, he might just like to kill because he just sniped her. No problem. She's dead. She's very dead. And Crosshair doesn't seem to care. And you can tell this affects Cody to like an ultimate level, a pivotal level in his life, a pivotal moment. And you have this swelling music where you just see the weight of everything that's happened and how awful it actually is that this woman was trying to defend her home world, and she used to be the bad guy, or so the Republic thought, or so Cody thought, according to their former way of things. And Cody's just seeing all this, and he's like, what are we actually doing? What have I actually been standing up for these past few months? Or past year, I guess. I don't know how long it's actually been since the Empire started at this point, but he's at a loss. And he has one final conversation with Crosshair where he's like, do you really think we're doing the right thing? Do you really think we're standing up for peace and justice in the galaxy as the Empire? And Crosshair just goes, we're soldiers, we follow orders, that's just what we do. That's a simple answer. And it's funny to me that a guy who seems so against orders in the Clone Wars, he just wanted to do his own thing. He had that vibe to him. Is so concerned with it now. I still wonder if he doesn't have that chip in his head. If he was lying, and he does still have it. But then come to find out, Cody went AWOL. And this was one of my moments in the episode, the very ending of the episode, where I was a little like, if Cody already has decided to rebel against the Empire and leave, I wish they would have given that more time to breathe. Like, make that more of an over-the-season thing, which they could have still done. It's possible that Admiral Rampart was actually saying that Cody went AWOL because he didn't immediately obey the Imperial Governor on Desix to kill the Severus Governor. And I wonder if that's what he meant. That Cody actually hasn't left the Empire, he just has become insubordinate. Because Rampart makes a comment about the loyalty, like clones not having enough loyalty anymore. Certainly not like Crosshair. And so Crosshair has a new mission reporting to a new clone. And you don't know what Cody's situation is, but you can tell all the stuff that happened really affected it. And by the end of it, you're just like, wow, that was great. And there was tension, real tension. Not like made up tension or too long drawn out tension or overly intense tension. I'm pretty sure you guys know what I'm referencing at this point. It's just it's Star Wars in a way that's like so poignant. Kind of like the ways Empire Strikes Back was in certain moments. Hits that nail on the head. And it's funny because the first two episodes of this season, they were fun. They were fun Bad Batch episodes. They had some deep moments, but they were largely kind of just the fun ones. And then this one decides to play it deadly serious. I'm like, no, this one isn't really fun. It's cool, but it's not fun. This one is deep and intense and emotional. And I love the story arc that they gave Cody. Because all this time I've been wondering what's happened to the man. And we come to find out that he is still kind of on the side of... I feel like he's on the side of the Jedi still. Like he feels bad for what he did to Obi-Wan. And I wonder if that's not going to come up later. I am hoping for a scene where he has an interaction with Rex, and I might cry if this happens, but if he just breaks down in front of Rex and he's like, Rex, I'm so sorry. I tried to kill Obi-Wan. And Rex is like, I tried to kill Ahsoka. We all make our own choices, and you chose to be here now. I will cry if that happens. Tears will be shed. The level of depth they've given Cody. He's still a good guy. He just, wrong place at the wrong time. Man, when you can create something that deep in a card flipping tune, you earn my respect. And Dave Filoni has earned my respect so many times that I cannot wait to see what he has planned next. Thank you guys for watching my review. I hope you liked it. Thank you for watching The Son of Wanda. Have a very blessed day. May the Lord be with you. May the Force be with you. Goodbye. And that's a wrap. Almost didn't get there.